Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Steel Sanctuary podcast. I'm your host, Dave Rivera from SteelSanctuary.com. And today we've got the full boat. We've got Ron Lippock and Dave on today. Guys, how you doing?
Good, good. Happy Sunday.
Happy
Same.
Sunday. We've had a few days to digest the whole Arthur Smith hiring. I just want to get you guys' thoughts on the hiring and what you think of it, and how do you think this is going to work out? Dave, you want to go first? Are you feeling better? You
Well,
still ready to?
I was gonna let Ron go first, but I can't. It don't matter. For me, um, I guess I'm past the what's the first one where you're just depressed or
Stage of
whatever. Yeah, I guess I'm past that. Um, but no, you know what? I started seeing different things, different stuff getting put out there, and I guess it's not fair to really go off of him as a head coach compared to when he was an offensive coordinator. I guess there is a difference. We've seen guys be a head coach and fail, but yet as an offensive coordinator, they're really good.
yeah,
So it's just one of them things. It could be anything to where, maybe, when he focuses on being offensive coordinator, that's good. But when you're the head coach, you got to focus on so many different things. So maybe that's just the difference. But the thing that really changed my mind or made me better about it, I'll say that, was when I looked at his last season with the Titans and I saw that they averaged 30.7 points a game or something like that. I saw that really, like, that was a smack in the face. Like, whoa, okay. I didn't realize they were averaging that many points a game in his final season with them, and that's with Ryan Tannehill quarterback.
yeah.
So yeah, that was when I was kind of like, all right, you dummy, just shut up, quit crying, and maybe this is actually a good thing. So I'm feeling better about it now.
That's good. Ron, what did you think of the whole thing? We haven't gotten your take yet.
Uh, I don't mind it. I think he's probably going to get back to what worked in Tennessee to Dave's point versus what was probably happening in Atlanta. The Steelers, as we know, sort of have that mandate of run first, pass, when you have to. And I think that's kind of who he was a little bit in Tennessee. I know he did a lot of play action. I think we could definitely use that in Pittsburgh more, more under center. So I'm thinking he's doing a lot of the things that he'll be asked and mandated, probably, frankly, to do a lot more things in Pittsburgh than he was doing in Atlanta and back to his Tennessee roots, so to speak. So I think that is helpful. I like the idea they're looking at a passing game coordinator to bring in as well to move them back into to this era of football. So I think that's all really good. I also it is interesting because I think everyone's we saw a lot of, oh, they only talked to three coordinators. I think they reached out to a lot more. And we even saw that where they reached out. Cabali said that they reached out to some college guys, and I think a lot of people
Yeah,
didn't do the work in Pittsburgh because there's no upward mobility with Tomlin there. That was one point that I never thought of that rings true. If you want to rise in the ranks, you're not going to probably do it in Pittsburgh until Tomlin on his own decides he's done.
Yeah.
So there's no upward mobility. Pittsburgh's also to that mandate pretty, as relative to other offenses, a little bit more vanilla. So if you're a cutting edge offensive coordinator, is that kind of what you want to do?
Yeah.
So there's probably more choices out there that said no before they interviewed than we know. And
yeah,
bringing back to a guy like Arthur Smith, who's consistent, who can run the offense they want to run, who's willing to bring in a passing game coordinator, obviously, to help beef up that part of it. If all that holds true, I'm okay with it. And no matter what, here's my thought with all this stuff: it's an upgrade,
Oh,
right?
100%.
yeah,
So
Yeah,
we know we've upgraded there, right? I mean, even if he's okay, we know we've upgraded. So when I look at a team and say where they were last year versus this year, we've upgraded there. That's for me. It may not be as high of an upgrade, but it's still an upgrade. That's a positive.
Yeah, I think we all got a little overexcited with the possibilities of what could come, and between guys like you mentioned maybe not wanting to come here, and Tomlin not really wanting to change, that he wanted to keep the offense pretty similar. And if that's the case, then Arthur Smith's probably the best candidate because he runs the kind of offense Mike Tomlin likes. It'll be interesting to see who changes or how it changes because the Steelers didn't do a lot of play action like you mentioned. Obviously, Kenny Pickett's not used to play action, so it'll be interesting to see if they stick with that or if they don't do as much. I mentioned in the last podcast with Dave, the Falcons were last in the league in 11 personnel. three wide receivers and one tight end, one running back. He didn't run that at all. And the Steelers ran it, I think, one of the most in the league. So
Yeah.
that's going to be interesting to see if he goes with more 11 personnel, or is the Steelers going to go to a lot of his stuff? That's going to be interesting too. We'll probably see a fullback back in Pittsburgh now. He used a fullback a lot. He uses a lot of two backs. The two backs with using Najee and Jalen Warren at the same time is interesting.
Yeah,
that'll be fun. I mean, if you're going to go to the team's talents,
and Warren would block. I mean,
Yep.
In that pseudo fullback, two back role, if he had to block, Warren, we've seen he'll lay some people out. So, even as a sort of a pseudo fullback in that two back role, he'd be kind of fun to see him do that.
the concern I still have with all this is what happens when they fall behind.
Yeah,
they're still not going to have a prolific passing game. You're playing Kansas City or Buffalo, and they're throwing downfield. And if your defense can't hold them, it's still a concern. But again, Mike Tomlin's not going to change. So this is my point. This is the offense he wants.
I'm not sure it's solely a Mike Tomlin thing, right? Like we've
don't
heard
think so?
him verbalize in the past on his own, I want this to be a running team. I'm not saying that Mike Tomlin would prefer to run the run and shoot, but I do think that this is not just a Mike Tomlin thing.
That's possible. Either way, this is the way it's going to be.
Yeah.
And like I said, Arthur Smith's probably the best guy for it, right? I mean,
I thought the whole thing was strange in general, though. Like Mike's down in Mobile, Alabama. They made it out like this wasn't going to get decided till after that. At least I thought that's how AR2 made it out to be. I mean, he did say sooner than later, but I didn't think that meant the next
like
day.
The day later, yeah.
Right. It was just strange. And I don't know, man, like it just was strange to me that you're talking about wanting to have a more dynamic offense, put up more points, and you're willing to do the change. And it's like, okay, well, the change to be a high passing prolific offense. That's what is the now. So it just was strange to me that they went with the guy that's more of a run guy. That's why it didn't sit well with me. And the fact that they had a chance at all these different guys that come from those, kind of trees, like the Shanahan trees, the McVay trees, stuff like that. Like they had a shot, and just like that, they went with Arthur Smith. And it was like, holy crap, you guys didn't even really do a big enough search, in my opinion.
I wonder.
Deciding.
I still wonder how many calls were made behind the scenes to guys who said, "Yeah, we'll pass."
Yeah,
no,
I mean,
intended,
right?
Because I think they were like, there's no upper mobility. You don't have a quarterback that maybe we feel super awesome about. And my guess is that the Steelers, if I'm reading, sort of behind the scenes or between the lines here a little bit, my guess, maybe this really leads into the draft. My guess is an offensive coordinator candidate probably talked to him about, hey, are we going to get a quarterback? Or are we going with what we got? And maybe if maybe I'm reading too much into this, but I'm wondering if the answer was no. And a lot of those offensive coordinators were like, okay, then, I'll go somewhere else where they're committed to bringing someone new in because I'm not totally cool with what you got. And I want to rise in the ranks, and I'm not going to do that.
That's a good point. That's a great point.
I hadn't considered all that of them maybe getting turned down.
Yeah.
Or maybe not the place, but it is true. I mean, if you're a young, innovative guy, this isn't the place that you're going to be able to, spread your wings and call plays and make a name for yourself. This isn't, that's not what they want. That's not what this organization wants. Apparently, they want it close to the vest. We've heard Mike Tomlin talk 1,000 times about no turnovers and ball control. And even I saw Arthur Smith's interview with Missy Matthews, and it's one of the first things he brought up was we're not going to turn the ball over. We're going to do this and that. And I'm like, boy, he's already towing the company line. He's only been here 48 hours. He did mention Chuck Noll in his interview, which was kind of nice. And now he said something like, I can't believe how many people haven't studied Chuck Noll and this and that. So we'll see. I mean,
that was a good interview. I did enjoy that interview with him, and seeing how many connections he had with Steelers, it was like, oh wow, okay, So it's almost like probably when he interviewed those guys are probably like, hey, this is a guy that's should be a part of this organization. That's probably the way they look at
that Western PA culture in the Steelers organization. That is a big part of who they hire, right? Yep. Whether you're from Western PA or not, you got to fit in, and that's a really good point, and that's a huge hiring point for them.
Did you know his father was the owner or CEO of what, a FedEx? The guy's like
Yeah.
beyond well off. Like, he doesn't need to be doing this.
He could be a minority owner of the team.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Even an owner. So that was wild. I didn't even know that. That's something. All right, let's do a little Steelers news before we get on to the awards. I guess the big news today: Le'Veon Bell coming out and saying he wants to make a comeback. I listened to his. He started to ramble a little bit in his little. I don't know if it was Snapchat or whatever, but I forgot he's only 31. I mean, there are backs older than him in the league, a lot older than him. So I don't know. I can't see it with the Steelers. I really can't. I don't think they go back to that well. I don't know what you guys think.
Yeah.
Not to mention it's a crowded room to begin with.
It's one of those things. Like, if I had to choose whether what I want or whether they'll do it, Steelers probably won't. The only way I could see it happening if he's like, hey man, minimum, I don't got to be the guy. Just, me personally, to have him as like the third back would be incredible. But yeah, I don't know. I doubt it. But as a fan, holy shit, that'd be awesome. To be honest with you,
I mean,
it's in my opinion, at least, like from my point of view, like it'd be awesome.
I agree. I think unless there's an injury, then I could see them sort of looking at that, and it obviously depends on how he tries out too, because it's one thing to say great
Right.
shape. He's a 31-year-old who's been out of the league for a while, and he didn't leave the league healthy. So
no, you're right.
There's he's got to pass all the tests, but I don't know also if the way he runs fits this style of offense either, right? He's that slow, patient to the hole.
Yep.
So I don't know if that's a fit or not. So that's another thing to consider.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind it, I guess. If give him a tryout, see how kick the tires, see what happens. But I don't know. The Steelers don't tend to go back. Once you're gone, you're gone. Like, I don't know.
It's not a normal thing for them to do. That's for sure.
All right. Longtime Steelers scout and assistant director of pro player personnel, Dave Pettit, is moving on. I guess they didn't renew his contract. Ron, did you ever interview him?
No, I've interviewed a lot of the guys around him. They are really turning over the scouting department.
Yeah, it seems like it, right?
And a lot of the other coaches as well, as we've seen in the training and development training staff too. So you're seeing a lot of change. I'm not sure what's behind. I mean, we've seen almost the entire scouting department turn over in the past few years, and that's intentional. They're not, these guys aren't leaving for other jobs. They're leaving because they're not being re-upped. So, I don't know what's behind that. Maybe just new guys bring in their guys. That happens everywhere. But, it's kind of weird because the Steelers are, as we know, super loyal. And, I don't know what it is. Maybe they've looked at some draft picks recently. They don't like what they've seen. I don't know.
Yeah, I think it's a Weidl thing. I think it's Andy Weidl. I think Andy Weidl is in Omar's ear, and they're trying to revamp this scouting department and go a different direction altogether. Again, maybe there's even more to it that the Steelers are behind on when it comes to the now. And I mean, we saw that with this draft, right? The way they took chances on players that had injury histories, and they took more of a chance on them because their ceiling was higher if healthy. So it's just a hunch. It's nothing, I could be completely wrong here, but I feel like it's definitely Andy Weidl with Omar Khan, and they're making a lot of moves, which I'm excited to see, to be honest with you.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. I mean, you can't argue with the results from last year after the few changes they made before this.
I mean, I don't know about you guys, but I want less Artie Burns and more Joey Porter Jr.
I can't help but wonder if these are Kevin Colbert's guys that they're trying to now weed out now that Kevin's gone. Maybe they felt he hung on to guys too long in the scouting department. I don't know.
Maybe. I don't know. And again, I think it's just also natural. Like, everyone new brings in their guys. Coaches do it, right?
True.
So, it's hard to say what's behind it. These guys have been there a while, and like you said, Dave, it's last year's draft was pretty good. So if you're looking at that and want to replicate that, you do it with the guys that and the guys that do the work that you do.
All right, just one more thing. The Steelers, I guess there's three names kicking around as possible Steelers coaches. Tom Arth, passing game coordinator for the Chargers last season. Charles London, Titans quarterback coach slash passing game coordinator, and Zach Azari, Jets wide receivers coach. I'm not familiar with any of the three. The Chargers fired everybody last year, so who knows with the Tom Arth guy. The Titans guy has some connections with Arthur Smith, I believe, right? And then Zach Azari, Jets wide receiver coach. Who knows? Maybe just an up and coming name.
No, the Chargers guy was legit. Like he did really well with that Chargers offense, with the quarterbacks and the wide receivers and the points they were putting up. That was him, from what I read. So I am. That's another reason what made me okay about the Arthur Smith thing. It's like, oh crap, they actually are going to do something and get my guy a passing game coordinator, maybe add a couple other things, you know. So I'm just happy to hear they're actually doing it, because it felt like it was just okay, we're hiring a new offensive coordinator. He's not Canada. I'd be happy, and we're done. And it was like, seriously. So now that you know, I see that they're doing this, is like, okay, good. So maybe all along the idea was, you know, grab a guy that's a run guy to be offensive coordinator, and then let's get him a passing guy. And, you know, with our powers combined, you know, see how it goes.
One to twin powers.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it can only good things can come of it. They needed to modernize the coaching staff and the way they look at stuff. We'll see. We'll see how many they hire. They haven't hired anybody yet, so we'll have to wait and see. But I'm sure at least a passing game coordinator is coming, maybe more. We'll have to see. All right, guys, let's get to the awards. This is our second annual Steelers Awards from last season. Let's start with offensive MVP. I'll be interested to see what you guys said on this one. Dave, you wanted to go first on this one?
Sure. My offensive MVP is George Pickens, which might surprise you guys, because some of the things he's done over the season made me mad, but just in general, man, just to take 63 receptions and turn that into over 1,100 yards, averaging 18.1 yards a catch. I mean, I know the TDs was only 5 at the same time. You saw what he was working with. So to do what he did, really impressive. I thought that he was the number one playmaker on the team and was the biggest threat. I mean, you saw what he did this season, just on a couple slant routes, took it to the house. Just such a dynamic player. So to me, that was my offensive MVP.
Ron, who do you got?
I took Warren. It was tough, but I took him just because everything seemed different when he was in there. You know, and every time he got in the lineup, every time he'd get his reps, there just seemed to be more energy. And it's not to take anything away from Najee Harris. It's just the kind of style of player he is. But it was one of the few times when he's in there, you felt like something big could happen. And as a running back, you see more action. Even in the blocking schemes, he was effective. So I just felt like, it was hard. This was a really hard one to find a offensive MVP in an offense that wasn't super charged. And I
Right.
it was up there.
It definitely was.
Yeah.
But I felt like he was the guy that posed the most excitement when he was on the field consistently.
Yeah, I went with Jaylen Warren too, and that was the word consistent. Like week in and week out, he was their best player, I thought, on offense most weeks.
Mm-hmm.
Pickens was definitely on there too. I would have considered Pickens, but Jaylen Warren's just the most explosive, consistent, exciting player that the Steelers had on their offense last year, in my opinion. And I kind of considered going to two-headed monster, because when they had Najee and Warren going at the same time, that was when they were probably at their best.
Oh man.
Games,
yeah.
Right. I mean, but to me, Jaylen Warren's the more explosive, more exciting player.
And it was
All
tough
right.
for me too. Like I was like, man, it's got to be either Jaylen Warren or Pickett. Like for me, I was like, man. And then I was like, which one would Dave pick? And then I was like, which one would Ron pick? It's like, I'll go with Pickens, because I had a feeling. I was like, they'll probably go with Jaylen, and I'll probably go with Pickens. So
good call.
Yep.
All right, defensive MVP. I went with Patrick Peterson. This one,
he almost got me there. I was like, oh, what?
This one's a slam dunk, right? I mean,
yeah.
Jesus.
I think it is.
The defensive player of the year almost, right? So
yeah,
TJ Watt's the guy.
Yeah.
Unless
I mean, we're talking about a guy that led the league in almost every edge rusher in the league in almost every statistical category.
yeah.
We're
And
talking about
anything
the
that's
fifth best edge player in the NFL. Come on.
Yeah,
I'm
right.
sorry, my bad. My bad. I forgot to count all of PFF's made up stats as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah.
That's my bad, guys. That's my
It's a
bad.
PFF free zone for these awards.
His pass rush win rate sucked. So
Yes. Only on
not good
Saturday
enough.
in
Yeah.
sub 40-degree weather.
Correct. Yes.
Unbelievable. All right, let's do biggest surprise. Who was your biggest surprise? Ron, you go first this time.
I'm going to say Landon Roberts.
That's a good choice.
I really
Good choice.
liked the way even in the passing game, he played well. He played hurt. He was, when they needed some kind of consistency in that linebacker core, he was the guy. It wasn't, Holcomb dropped early. So did everyone else. He even Hurt played really well. I thought he became a leader. You could see it. He was a leader. I thought he was the biggest surprise because he was sort of a less, he was sort of the guy they signed in the midst of signing other really cool guys, and yet he turned out to be the guy that sort of rose to the top for me. So,
Dave, who do you have?
Oh, I went Mason Rudolph. Like, look, I remember last summer we were like, I'd trade him for a pizza and a bag of popcorn. And then here we are, and we're just like, holy crap, who is this guy? I mean, this guy stayed in the pocket, was accurate on short to intermediate passes. This guy didn't do that before, right? We called him Happy Feet. The guy, he was scared to death out there, and now to see him come out, and this guy's completion percentage was 74.3% in the 4 games he played. What else? 719 yards. Now he only had like 3 TDs, but his rating, his quarterback rating, guys, was 118.
In bad weather too.
And there you go. And I didn't even have that part. Thanks, Ron. Yeah. To me, there's no doubt the biggest surprise was Mason Rudolph. Nobody saw this coming with the exception of like a couple guys that know him personally. And that's literally it. At least for me, I had no idea he was going to be this good. Right. So for me, the biggest surprise was definitely Mason Rudolph. Didn't have that on my bingo card at all for this season.
Steelers didn't either. They were ready to let him walk.
Yeah.
Period. And then he had to come begging back to get a job, pretty much, because no one else wanted him. Mason Rudolph was definitely mine too. I mean, he did stuff with this offense we didn't think was possible because everyone thought, it's the offense, it's the coordinator, it's the poorly executed, poorly planned out offense. And he somewhat succeeded in this offense where Kenny Pickett and Mitch Trubisky definitely couldn't do. So, yeah, if you would have asked me, Mason Rudolph going to win 3 or 4 games for the Steelers and get him in the playoffs, I'd be like, yep, out of your goddamn mind. There's no way. No way. And he did it. He surprised us all. Incredible couple of games there. All right. Biggest disappointment. Who gets this award?
Who wants to go first?
Go ahead, Dave. You go first.
You want me to go first?
Yeah.
All right. Look, I have a 1 and a 2.
I already know what you're going to say.
I have a 1 and a 2 here. Okay. So I don't even know if I should say 1A, not even say 2. The first one is Kenny Pickett. I'm sorry. Just absolutely. Dave, you remember me. I was in love over the summer when I saw everything that he was doing. And then after that 49ers game, he was completely different from the guy we saw in the preseason, if we're being honest with ourselves. And, just to not be able to do anything that we thought he was going to do was just so disappointing. Constantly getting hurt too. It's just like anytime he ran out of the pocket, you held your breath because you're like, if he gets touched, he's going to get hurt. And then the spinny Rooney move into guys coming at him, that didn't help either. And just there was a lot of, he wasn't very accurate. It just didn't see progression. It was regression, and just something I didn't see coming after watching him in the preseason. I mean, when they say don't pay attention to preseason, holy shit. Like they really mean don't pay attention to preseason. So definitely the biggest disappointment to me. The other one I had for a 1A, if you will, was Mason Cole. Like I knew he was serviceable last year, right? Like maybe my memory is wrong here, but I could have sworn this guy was serviceable. He was decent. And then this year he was horrendous. Like I couldn't get over how bad he really was. Like I watched videos of guys just bull rushing him and just throwing him out of the way like he was nothing. And then the low snaps, how many times did he hike the ball at whether it be Kenny or Mitch or Mason's ankles? It was like, dude, what are you doing? And I just I just very disappointed. I did not see it coming from him either. I knew he wasn't, the next Marquise Pouncey, but I also didn't think that he would be horrendous either. Like it just, wow. But those are my 1-1A, if you will.
Ron, who do you have?
Pickett was just the for me the obvious choice. I like the Mason Poole one as well. There was just nothing, you saw in preseason, you got excited, right? You see a different Kenny Pickett in preseason, but when the regular season kicked in, it was just holy mackerel, like what, it was just nothing to feel great about. So for me, Pickett was the guy. It was just disappointing. I almost felt like I wish he didn't have a great preseason because there would have been no expectations to begin with. But
right,
he just did not look like he was ready. So
yeah. I had Kenny Pickett as well. Dave, you make a great point. That first game against the 49ers, I think he lost all his confidence, and I don't think it just snowballed on him.
I was about to bring that up again. To bring it up again. There's just something about that. Worse. Yeah, there's just something about that 49ers game. And I've been waiting to hear too that he played through an injury or something. Like I've been waiting to hear something because like he was so bad that you're just like, there's got to be something else wrong, or you're not expecting him to be this bad. And because I thought the rib injury maybe affected him more than was let on. Maybe I don't know. I'm not in that locker room, so I don't know. But like, I really thought that something there was wrong with him injury wise for him to be as bad as he was, but maybe not. Hasn't come out. I'll put it that way. That he played through stuff more than he should have or something. But I don't know. But yeah, very disappointing.
Yeah, some of the things he was known for, like accuracy and stuff like that, it was just it all deteriorated. It was a tough season to watch. And
Dave, do you remember I bragged to you? I said I can't believe the league let the Steelers draft back-to-back franchise quarterbacks. Do you remember me saying that?
Yes,
I said that,
buddy. That last preseason game.
Not over yet.
I said that. I predicted 12-5. I was just, I was uber Yinzer in love. Like it was just. I feel like an idiot, really. Like I was just like, I can't believe I fell for it that hard, but I did. I really. It was
just preseason, but he looked so confident.
He did. He was getting the ball downfield as well.
Pushing the ball downfield in the middle of the field.
Getting the ball downfield.
He had us all fooled. And we all were expecting. So after those 2 comeback wins last year and the way he finished last season and the preseason, we were all like, well, there's something here. And it just and can you blame Matt Canada? I guess. I mean, we all agree the offensive scheme and his play calling was bad, but like we said earlier, Mason Rudolph took the same group, the same offense, the same everything, and
put up 30 points twice.
Yeah, he was successful.
Whew.
Yeah, I don't know. All right, the best coach out of all the coaches, who do you guys think?
Go ahead, Ron.
I was going to say Aaron Curry, because he took a linebacker group that was decimated inside, and they all, when you talk to these guys, they all just raved about him as well. So that was my pick. I mean, the outside linebackers probably didn't need a lot of help, but they, especially, the starters, but even the depth guys performed really well. The inside guys, it was just, man, it was all they could do just to put guys on the field. But they, they did well. And, considering, I mean, I know they weren't great in coverage, but I mean, when you're 4 deep at inside linebacker, what do you expect? So I thought he did really well, putting it all together and keeping something, respectable on the field, considering how much change there was.
I have a feeling this one's unanimous. You too, Dave? I saw you shaking your head for Aaron Curry.
I had 1-1A. So my one was Aaron Curry because of the fact of, you got guys like Watt and Highsmith to make your job easy. But like when Herbig got in there, he made an impact, right? When Golden got in there, he made an impact. And then the carousel of inside linebackers was just ridiculous. And yet he still found a way to make it work for most of them. The only one that didn't do well was Michael Walker. Besides him, the rest of those guys were serviceable. I mean, he took Miles Jack off the couch, and he still was. I'm not saying he was, Ray Lewis out there, but I'm saying like in general, he was serviceable enough to where they were able to win some games at the end. that's great coaching. You know what I'm
Yep,
saying? Like
100%.
that's coaching right there. So for me, it was definitely Aaron Curry was one. My 1A was Eddie Faulkner. Uh, just
That's a good
because of the
point.
fact,
Mhm.
just because of the fact of one, look what Najee and Jalen did together. And then you factor in that he had to take over doing a bunch of other stuff as well. And, help that offense to, with the run game, to put up those 30 something points as well. So he was another one that I felt deserved some, notice for what the job he put in.
That's a good one. Faulkner definitely deserves a lot of credit for the running back situation the Steelers had this season. All right, what's next? Best single game performance. Who gets that one? Dave, you go first.
Oh, without a doubt, it's the Mason Rudolph and George Pickens game against the Bengals. That game, holy shit. Like that was Mason's first game, right? That's the one,
Yeah.
right?
Yep.
Okay. I thought so. So just to give you an idea, he had 290 yards his first game passing, 2 TDs. His freaking quarterback rating was 124.0, what I believe is the highest one for a Steelers quarterback this season. And then
Sure.
on top of that, Pickens had 195 yards receiving. Like his long was 86 yards. Like those two together were just dominating on the field. And for all of us, we were in shock, right? We're like, holy shit, where'd this Mason Rudolph? We knew he had a good long ball, but I mean, like, we didn't think he was going to be like this his first game in a while. So for me, that game, man, to put up 30 something points right off the rip, his first game with a quarterback rating of 124. That's to me, that's got it. And then what Pickens did to me together, that's got to be the best performance of the season.
Ron, what do you have?
So I had the same, just the pressure of coming off the bench as a third stringer, coming in and performing like that against, in a must-win game. There was still tension. He comes in and just plays lights out. That was an easy one for me just because of how important that game was and how much pressure there was on him and how much unknown there was for everyone around just to figure out sort of what we're going to expect. I think at that point we're all, most of us, I think we're sort of at the stage of like resigned to who we're going to draft in next year.
Yeah, definitely.
And he gave the team hope in that game.
Yeah, and you guys got to remember that was when Jake Browning for the Bengals was absolutely on fire, throwing for like 350, 400 yards or whatever, 3 or 4 TDs. The Bengals looked like they were going to be like actually might make the playoffs at that point. And the Steelers were reeling, really. And to help the whole thing to flip upside down to where the Steelers were the one that looked like the team that was on fire. Incredible. Just incredible performance by Rudolph and Pickens.
Yeah, I had that one too, but I'm going to give a 1A. I think that Najee Harris against the Seahawks was pretty incredible.
That was a good one.
122 yards, 2 touchdowns. That was the game where I was like, maybe I should start apologizing for all my Najee Harris takes at this point because he's making me look really bad here. And he was incredible in that game. The second half of the season too, altogether.
Is that the stiff arm game too, where him and Jalen were just stiff arming the shit out of the Seahawks?
It's kind of ironic too, because like he was in beast mode against Seattle.
Against the Seahawks, exactly.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, that was really impressive to me. But you can't deny the Bengals game was the best one of the season. All right, worst single game performance.
Oh, I know.
Who wants to go first on this one?
I know mine. Right here.
Go ahead, Dave.
I'm going Mitch Trubisky, the Jags game. Let me tell you, this guy, he came in there after Kenny got hurt, and you're just like, well, YOLO Mitch, here we go. And my man threw back-to-back picks. His passer rating was 51.2. You know how bad that is to get a 51.2 passer rating? You literally got it. You better have about 5 injuries to have a 51.2 passer rating. And he was just horrendous. You're facing a team where you can't make that many mistakes. And he came in there and just completely shit the bed. And that was when they definitely started to trend downward there, if I remember correctly. Yeah. I just thought that was horrendous. He averaged like 9.2 yards a throw. Guys in triple coverage.
This team, man.
Triple coverage. He didn't care. He threw the ball anyways. I just, to me, that had to be the worst performance of the season. Yeah.
Last for him and the team.
Ron, do you have the same one or do you have a different one?
I had San Francisco. I had the first game only because of how the trajectory it put the whole offense for me, right? Like to your point earlier, like we were all high on Pickett's, and what he looked like. In that game, just it was like the balloon popped, and it was like, oh crap, we're here we go again.
We're
And
in for a long season, yeah.
And so for me, that was the worst performance because you want to kick off the season at least looking good. I didn't care if we scored 30 points, but more than 3 would have been cool. And it just, it just set off everything in the worst possible direction for a team that needed to look very different, to look right.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, as far as shocking, just how bad it was.
Yeah.
That was a swift smack of reality in the face right there.
Yeah.
You were just like,
oh,
okay, they're not that good. They're not that good. Yeah.
Mine was Mitch against the Colts. That game they needed so badly. I thought the Colts were a winnable game, and 169 yards, 2 interceptions. He was awful. And you can take your pick of Mitch Trubisky started games for the worst performance of the season. All right, this one's probably another slam dunk. Rookie of the year. It's got to be JPJ, right? I mean,
it could have been Benton if I thought Benton had enough reps.
Yeah,
they didn't give him the reps, which was really weird. Though I think he might have been a little bit banged up, but even so, I think JPJ was just a slam dunk for me.
Yeah, like for me, he didn't even get to start for a while, and then he still had 10 passes defended. He had the key interception that Ravens game that was a flip of 7 points, and that was against Lamar Neff. So that to me was impressive. Do you know the passer rating against him was only 47.5%?
Yeah,
that's it.
Yeah.
And then when I was looking up how many touchdowns he allowed, some sites say 0 and some say 1. So literally, there's only 1 TD he allowed for the season, and even that can be argued.
And he's following the team's best receiver really all the time too. On top of all that, they were making.
And then he made the All Pro rookie team. Is that the one he made? He won. He made one of them. Yeah. So if you're a rookie on the Steelers and you made the All Pro rookie team, you're probably the top rookie on the team.
Yeah, 100%. I like that. I think I agree with Ron. Benton could have been, but for some God only knows if he just didn't get the snaps.
Right. He only reason why he probably didn't get it is because he didn't get enough chances to earn it. Honestly, because to me, Ben was, besides Joey, was probably the other most exciting rookie on the team. I mean, that man was really good for his rookie season on D-line like that. He did very well.
Yep. All right, the player that regressed the most in 2023. Who do you got?
Well,
I had Mason Cole, just because, like you said earlier, Dave, you stole a lot of my thunder with you. I've never seen a player do it. Well, I have, I guess, but to do the turnaround that he did, it brought memories of Kendrick Green this season. Like, he couldn't block, he couldn't snap.
Yeah,
we've had some of the worst center play in the last 2 or 3 seasons. Even Marquise Pouncey's last season was brutal, and now they almost have to draft a center early. First 2 rounds, they have to. Can't get another season of this.
There's a couple good ones too. So
we're gonna lose track if we start talking draft, Dave, because I'm
we'll try to stay on topic here, but
don't tempt me.
Mason Cole was for me. I mean,
wow. So I have 1A and 1B, but Ron, you go ahead.
Cole was up there. Dan Moore is probably a good one.
That's another good one. Yep.
He was solid, if not unspectacular last year. I felt was less so this year. So those 2 for me, I think really, really probably rose to the top. The other one, sort of 3, is Highsmith. I don't know. I want to say he regressed, but he wasn't quite as impactful, certainly. And so there are times, especially when Watt was out, where they needed someone to make some splash plays, and he just didn't seem to always be there. So I'd love to see him do more there.
Yeah, with Highsmith, it was like, where's the sacks at?
Yeah.
But yet he had a lot of QB pressure. So it's like what, is that
it was a Myles Garrett question. Yeah,
right. PFF probably loved him, but just in general, but I just for me, I had 1A, 1B. I also had Dan Moore as one of them. You go from being an okay to you were one of the worst ranked offensive linemen in the whole league, and just your pass pro was absolutely horrendous. So it just to not see any of improvement there was it sucked. Another one was Liao. I mean, this guy
I didn't even think of him. I didn't even think of
really
him.
like look, Liao to me is just such a disappointment. Like this guy goes from you're thinking, okay, we got something here. This was last season. We're thinking, oh, we got something here. This guy, Then it went to, oh, we're going to tweak him. He's either going to be a defensive lineman or is he going to be, an edge rusher? What are we doing with this guy? To my man didn't even get a helmet on Sundays. Like that's bad. This was what, a third round pick last
Third round
season?
pick. Yep.
Third round pick, and my man's not even getting a helmet. And then Tomlin's making comments like, that's up to him where he goes from here. That's the comment Tomlin made at the end of the season.
Something going on there.
That's the definition of regression, boys.
Yeah. Good point.
And then I listed Kenny, and we already beat that dead horse. So, but yeah. So, but no, Liao. I actually had Liao listed as number 1 on my list. He was 1A more, 1B was Kenny. But yeah, Liao is to go to not even getting a damn helmet. That's rough.
Yeah, it's a good one, Dave. He was so far off my radar, I didn't even think of him because he was like a non-factor.
That's why he was off your radar. The guy didn't even fucking play, like literally, yeah.
It occurred when I made this list, I didn't do most improved, and as you guys were talking, I was thumbing through the roster trying to find the most improved. Does anyone come to the top of your head?
That's really interesting because I made a note to speak, to say that. Like the most telling thing about this season was you can't find a most improved.
I mean, George Pickens, maybe?
That's what I had. Do I have it on here? Most improved. No, you know what? I have Jaylen Warren.
Yeah, I guess those two would be the only two.
Yeah. Now, mind you, of course. So I have it down here. I actually had this. I had Jaylen Warren for the pure fact that, just looking at stats, just basically stats in general, his yards per attempt went up from 4.9 to 5.3. His yardage output in general, it went from 379 to 784 yards carrying. And then receptions, it went from 214 to 370 yards. So he definitely improved. Oh, remember how we always wondered if he was legit, could take it to the house? Was he that kind of running back? Mm-hmm. Can he get the ball, take it to the house? And he did it this season. Mm-hmm. He didn't do it last season, but he did this season. So to me, that was why I had him down as most improved. I was tempted to go with George Pickens, but I also had him as the other. Yeah. So I was like, I'll try to find somebody different. It was actually hard.
It is telling. There's not a lot of candidates.
I had a really hard time. I put Mark Robinson because I literally didn't have one in my head. Like I thought Pickens played well, but I didn't know if he was better than last year. Better than season, or if he was just on the same footing. I couldn't find someone who I looked at and said, "Wow, this guy really took a step up." You could look at Austin just because he didn't play, but that doesn't mean he improved or anything. So I was struggling with this one because I couldn't, and I started thinking about that. Like that's not good.
Right. Yeah, it really I was just saying the same thing. Yeah, I was just saying the same thing right now. I was like, wow, this is not good. That we could, 3 of us couldn't really.
There's a lot of new faces on that team last year, and when you look at this year's team, none of those new faces seem to really like step up and be great. Or better
at all.
So that's I don't know what you do with that yet, but that is a little
not good. That's for sure.
All right, we got a couple left here. Best free agent signing. What do you guys think?
I went with Roberts because I love Roberts. The way he kept the team on track defensively, he called his plays, he played hard, he played inspired, he better in coverage than we thought, played tough. That was my guy. And Siamalu.
Yeah, I had Roberts. He became one of my favorite players towards the end of the season. Like you said, playing hurt, just playing great. Like playing in coverage, which everyone said was the knock on him. He couldn't play coverage. He did everything the Steelers needed, played hurt to keep him going, saved the defense really by staying in there and playing. Definitely a Landon Roberts for me. Dave, who'd you have?
I had 1A, 1B.
There you go.
Kind of a trend with me. One was Sam Mahler, leader of that offensive line. And he was an excellent pass pro and run blocking. You'd watch him hit guys, get to the second level, just knocking guys on their asses. And then just a leader, a presence in that locker room. So I thought he was a great free agent signing. Second one I had was Roberts, like you guys said. Roberts was that one guy when we lost everyone, rose to the occasion, and actually got better. And this is a guy playing with one leg, basically. 1 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 because I think he had a groin. Was a groin issue, if I remember correctly.
A
He
couple
had that
things, yeah.
injury. Oh yeah, maybe a couple things. Yeah, right. And you'd be like, this guy ain't gonna play. He had a pec injury too, if I think.
Yep.
Yeah,
And
He played the
he
rest of
would
the
end
season
up
with a pec
and he
injury.
would end
Yep.
up playing. You're like, what? And then you'd see him make great plays. And you're like, man, this guy is a fucking warrior. Like, holy crap.
Yep.
My 1B was Eric Rowe.
Yeah,
You
that
want
one
to talk
was a good one.
you want to talk about a guy getting plugged in there and actually playing above the line.
yeah.
You know, I couldn't ask for a better result. I mean, no Minka, all your safeties are gone. And my guy stepped in there, and I mean, he had one interception, almost had two,
Yeah.
made some key tackles. He played really well to the
Yeah.
point where I'm like hoping they bring him back. That's a guy that should definitely be, on a team in the NFL. I was surprised that he was a free agent, to be honest.
Yeah.
He played so well, we wanted him over Casey when Casey got back,
Yes.
right? That's what we were talking about because he had played
Yes.
so well.
Yep, I'll get to him in a second.
All right. Worst free agent signing, Dave. Go ahead.
KZ. So I have him tied with Pat P. So
Yeah,
for
who I'm
me,
taking.
KZ, he played in 9 games to 4 last season and still had the same amount of interceptions. So that the interception amount didn't go up. And everything else went down, right? And he just was a liability out there. To me, it wasn't the same KZ. It just wasn't. Missed tackles. But that Buffalo game was horrendous. And then on top of that Pats game, all 3 of Zappy's touchdowns were KZ, or the other guy I'm going to mention, getting burned over the top in the end zone. If you rewatch those games, you'll see it's KZ almost every time. Let the wide receiver get behind him, and Zappy just dumped it right over his head. And that happened quite a lot with KZ in general. He just not great. He had 11 pass defense. And it's like, well, yeah, he was constantly getting picked on by the freaking quarterback. So, yeah.
And he took that dumb penalty that got thrown out of the game and
penalties,
missed a couple games to that.
Thrown out of the game. Like, it just, just horrible. Just not the same guy that we thought we were getting back. I liked KZ. I liked this signing originally. I was like, hey, this guy's a solid tackler. He's got hands. I'm all in with him. Like, I'm cool with that. But just very disappointing. And I'd with him Pat P. I'm sorry. The amount of money they paid this guy, me and Dave debated this, to her blue in the face that, this isn't a good sign. I'm like, it is. I'm like, hey, this guy had 5 interceptions last season. He still can cover. He had a great PFF grade. And Dave was so right. He looked bad, slow. Only 2 interceptions this season. He was picked on a lot. And then he had a little time where he started to do better. And then again, towards the end, he started to go downhill again. But I felt like Pat P, for the money he was getting paid, it felt like my man was going into business for himself on a lot of those tackles. His tackles was down, and it was down because he didn't want to make the tackle. I would see him ease up a lot of times and not make the tackle. And I don't know if it's something where he's just protected himself or what it is, but I didn't like it. So those are my 2.
33-year-old corner. I mean, the days of going in head first and sacrificing are well behind you. Ron, who did you have?
I cheated. So I went Allen Robinson on trade. Which I know
that's definitely legit.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I just felt like he was just completely, and maybe it's usage, I don't know, but I just felt like there's just no impact at all in his presence there. And maybe it is unfair to the offense, but I mean, to give up something for something that you could have gotten off, a guy off of your, undrafted free agent who could just plug in. I just didn't feel like they were getting enough out of that for a trade. So I was kind of keen on him. I thought he would be like a really good fit, but it just never came to fruition. And he's not cheap either. So I think, he was my choice. I understand on the KZ stuff. I thought KZ, I didn't think it was as bad, or Peterson were as bad as that. I do feel like, they were a little bit a victim of a pass rush that was really either there or not, right? And so I do wonder about that moving forward, like how this pass rush is going to look, because, there are times when the pass rush just wasn't there. So, and our secondary isn't good enough for that. So I was debating on that, like how much emphasis do I put on those guys versus a pass rush that I felt was really disappointing for most of the year.
Mm-hmm.
So I went with Robinson because I just felt like, he was just really not impactful at all.
Oh, I think that's a great pick. I was really hoping that he would be, apparently healthy, that he'd be kind of resemblance of his old self a little bit.
Yeah.
And it'd be a sneaky good trade by Omar. But he looked slow, looked like the only thing he was actually decent at was blocking.
Yeah.
And then it seemed like that was all he's going to get utilized for. Then they started going to him like third downs, and I thought, okay, maybe he's going to be like a Juju Smith-Schuster, where he's that solid, savvy veteran that just gets past the first down marker. But it didn't happen a lot. It didn't happen as much as I was hoping.
There's a lot of him like 3rd and 15, and they get a 7-yard pass to him. Kind of
right.
Okay.
And you're like, that's the guy you picked to try to get another 7 yards after the catch.
Yeah.
Yeah. No. Yeah. No, that's a good pick, Ryan. I never thought of it that way. That's pretty good.
They didn't get anything more out of him. They could have gotten out of Miles Boykin. The same.
Exactly.
And they already had him on roster. I mean,
yep.
If you remember, Dave, I was down on him too. I mean, if you can't do it in a Sean McVay offense, then you're done.
Yeah.
And he couldn't get it done last year with the Rams. So I was like, this isn't going to work out very well. Mine was Patrick Peterson. You guys know how I feel about him. He did play better, like to Dave's point, towards the middle of the season. He did improve a little bit. The start of the season was bad. It was really bad. Yeah. And it's hard to blame the player when if the team comes to you and offers you what was it, $9 million a season, what are they going to do? Say no? Of course they're going to take it. That's on the Steelers. This guy's corners hit the wall at 30. This guy's 34, playing in a heavy zone defense, and you bring him in as a cover man corner. It's just Mike Tomlin has his favorites sometimes, and yes, the Patrick Peterson of 2016 was great. 2018. The Patrick Peterson of 2023, it was never going to work.
I think it was also a knee jerk. I think they didn't expect to lose Sutton, especially so quickly.
Yeah.
I think they thought he was going to be locked up. And when he left, I think they were like, holy shit, we need someone.
Yeah. Now. That's a good point.
They went for him. Because remember, Peterson said they didn't even talk to me until that day.
Yep.
So, it was one of those things where I think they, and I think that's a really great point too, where he was playing a style that wasn't what brought him there. Right. And so I think, all those things combined just didn't lend itself well. I did think he started playing really well at the end. I think I would not be surprised to see him pull like a Rod Woodson type move and move to safety. But he's got to show he can do that too. And if he's not tackling well, then that's not a good sign for safety.
Yeah, I have two problems with the safety thing. One is his tackling wasn't very good, and then two, if he's the safety, he's the free safety, right? And then that means Minkah Fitzpatrick playing strong safety again, which I don't want to see. I don't want to see Minkah Fitzpatrick have 100 tackles and be at the line of scrimmage and end up hurt again. I want Minkah back where he was.
Yeah.
As a roving free safety, making quarterbacks miserable,
Yeah, right.
Being in the right spots, picking balls off. I don't want to see Minkah Fitzpatrick as a linebacker. That's not his game. He can do it, and he did it well. Obviously, 2 years in a row, he's had up-teen tackles, but I don't want to see that. I don't want to see Patrick Peterson.
That's not why you bring him in. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the other part. You don't trade for Minkah Fitzpatrick to make him the third linebacker.
Yeah, that's why he left Miami.
He's going to be Keanu Neal out there. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, that's why he left Miami. Miami was trying to get him to do that. And he didn't want to do it.
Right.
And so he asked for a trade, and that's how he ended up in Pittsburgh. I just hope they go out and get a strong safety this year, a legit strong safety, and put Minkah back where he belongs.
I hope his mother doesn't start tweeting against Pittsburgh.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. Yeah, I've been waiting for that too. Yep.
All right, guys, that wraps it up for the awards. It's kind of a fun thing we do. I have a lot of fun with it. Before we get out of here, we haven't even talked about the Steelers' schedule next year. They've already announced the teams. I just wanted to get you guys' thoughts on some of this. It looks like they're playing AFC West and NFC East. The home games are Cowboys, Chiefs, Chargers, Giants, and Jets. This is not counting Bengals and the division teams. And the road games are Falcons, Broncos, Colts, Raiders, Eagles, Commanders. Doesn't seem like a terrible schedule. Not too many. You got to go to Denver and Las Vegas. So that's the two longest ones. After that, it's really nothing. You get the Jets and Giants.
It's tough to me. It actually
sounds. I don't like it. Yeah,
you don't like it? Well,
no.
It feels like a playoff team schedule.
Yeah,
that's like, exactly what it is.
As soon as I heard Eagles and the Chargers with a new coach, Mike figured it out.
Too.
Now you're back to facing Justin Herbert.
Raiders are playing better. They're
Raiders.
Yeah, true.
Denver was got Sean Payton to get them turned around too. So to me, it's not going to be the Chiefs as well. Obviously, that's tough. I mean,
the Cowboys are no pushover.
Cowboys, either, right? No pushover. doesn't sound great to me. I don't know. Plus, our division's tough as hell already.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know, Dave. I like
I mean,
how
I
you're
meant-
positive and we're the ones that are negative. Okay. Yeah. All right.
I was thinking in terms of travel, but the teams, the teams, yeah, and you get the Jets and Giants at home. They're both going to stink
But
unless
see,
Aaron Rodgers comes back.
The Jets have Rodgers back, unless stories are true and he's creating problems already behind the scenes in New York, which we're starting to hear about now. I don't know. But the Jets have a tough defense, man. So
They do.
I don't know.
And here's the thing: the Steelers, they're this kind of team now where you can't even predict what they'll do. They're the first team in history to lose to 2-10 teams back to back ever at home.
They're going to beat the Chiefs and lose to the Washington Commanders.
Right. And that's literally what's going to happen.
Yeah.
You can't. It looks tough, but they may go out there and with Arthur Smith and a passing game coordinator look like Shanahan's team out there, and maybe you win 11, 12 games. I'm not predicting that. But in general, you just never know. It could happen.
Did they make a move for a quarterback?
No.
Kenny Pickett for 2024.
It depends what they do with Rudolph, I think. If they don't if Rudolph decides, you know what, I'm getting offers, I'm going to go elsewhere, then you have to make a move because I don't think Trubisky's going to be on the team. So they're going to have to then you trade for Fields, or maybe then you go after a Minshew or something. They got to have a legit potential starter or Brissett, someone like that. I don't think they're going to draft anyone.
I read a report they're keeping Mitch. They want to keep him.
Not convinced of that at all.
I hope you're wrong. Yeah.
I think there's nothing Tomlin hates more than guy who turns the ball over.
Right.
That's all Mitch did. And he's expensive.
And a guy you're paying $8 million to.
I cannot imagine he's on this team.
There's no fucking way. If I'm them, I'm keeping him. In fact, I'd cut him now. Like I'd be like, bye, get out, go. Is there a
scenario? There is a scenario.
There's a deadline where they got to cut him in there by a certain deadline.
No, I don't think so. I think they can cut him right up until.
I meant for the cap hit. There's a certain deadline they got to cut him by
June 1st. You got to cut him to get
June 1st
for this year's.
So, I just
guys, I don't know if they can't get Mason Rudolph back.
I don't know what to hope for. I don't know where to hope for. Mason Rudolph doesn't come back, so that forces them to go get somebody, or Mason Rudolph comes back, so they do get rid of Trubisky. I don't know which scenario I like more. I'd rather be both. They get Mason and cut Mitch.
I think Mitch is gone. I think Mason or a Mason-like quarterback will be on this team, whether it's Brissett, whether it's Minshew, whether it's Mason, whether it's Tannehill.
Tannehill is the name to keep an eye on, I guess.
But whoever it is, they will bring someone in, and then I could see them drafting someone like late rounds unless someone like who's the quarterback that got hurt, Jordan, whatever his name is.
From the Florida State there. Yeah,
maybe if he falls like round 3, I could see them doing something like that. But
Spencer Rattler did pretty good yesterday, I heard.
I got to see the first half until Fubo TV had the feed go out on me. I didn't see the whole second half, but I was taking notes for that shit too because I didn't know if we were going to talk about that or not either. Dude, Rattler looked really good.
Yeah, he's the only quarterback there that looked good, supposedly too.
Yes, like with watching with my own eyes, like he looked the most fluent, if you will. It didn't look like he was overmatched with anything. And his ball to the wide receiver to Rosemy Jack Saint, it was gorgeous. I mean, he threw it effortlessly.
Didn't play, right? Penix refused to play. He pulled out.
Penix didn't play. He opted out.
I was
like,
and he was not looking good in practice. So I'm wondering.
That's what I heard. Him and Bo Nix both were struggling a little bit. Yeah.
Well, Nix did decent in the game. It was a lot of short passes with Bo Nix. He did throw the touchdown, a couple crossbody throws. But like he didn't make any long bombs. Yeah, like he didn't make any long bombs. Like nothing too great, like nothing too crazy. Just a lot of dump offs too. Milton's got a big arm, but his accuracy is horrendous. He's horrendous. He threw 2 touchdowns. The one he tried to, or interceptions. I'm sorry. He tried to throw cross body and didn't see a guy standing right there and intercepted the ball. Hartman didn't look good. He had an easy touchdown to the tight end. He overthrew him. Then he threw a pick. Pratt didn't look good. He looked horrible. Had short throws. He was skying them over the guys' heads. And then I think he fumbled the ball the very next play. He fumbled it and it turned the ball over. It was just like, all right. I don't know if it's nerves, some of these guys, something, but they wasn't impressed. Wasn't impressed. Rattler was the one where I was like, okay, that kid looked like the the game wasn't too big for him. If you get what I'm
Remember
saying.
this draft class was the one that everyone said, "Oh, you can't take Pickett because this is the draft class where all these great quarterbacks are going to be."
Yeah.
Never happens that way, man. There's not a quarterback
Yeah.
that I think everyone feels like there's a super slam dunk.
I was wondering
I-
the same thing, Ron.
I
I
don't
thought
know,
I was going to
these-
see all these great quarterbacks in the Senior Bowl game light it up, and it was just like
the big three are still
this-
there. Caleb
I was like,
Williams.
this
and-
is supposed to impress. Well,
But
okay, but
Caleb
you're going to
Williams
have
has
your
some flags.
yeah, right.
but he's got to be.
But see, Dave, typically you have 2 to 3 studs anyways. You're going to have your
Yeah.
2 or 3 stud quarterbacks anyways. But they said this was a deep class. To Ron's point, I
yeah,
didn't see
it's. I mean,
I
it's worlds better than the Kenny Pickett draft. I mean,
oh
there's
yeah,
there's no Caleb
Yeah.
Williams or even Drake May or any of those guys. Gun to your head, Justin Fields or Kenny Pickett, who would you want as a starting quarterback for the Steelers next year?
Justin Fields.
It didn't take long to. I
I don't
I
know.
worry a little bit about Justin. Like I don't love Kenny Pickett, you guys know, but
I mean, Ron, go ahead. I'll talk.
I feel like it's like, do you want like COVID or a back pain from the flu? I mean, like right now, the way they're playing, like, which do you care about?
COVID or the flu, right? Which one? I
I
mean,
don't know.
Justin Fields
I mean,
gives you the running aspect, which would make things
Well,
exciting at least.
which COVID, the Delta or
Yeah,
I have my
Bravo or,
booster, so maybe I don't know. I
the
just
original
don't know
COVID. I mean, which one are we talking about here?
I feel like both are just like I don't know. There's nothing that screams like this one is going to be really great. I mean, everyone's this was Fields' year, and he put up like 3 points or something. Yeah, I don't know.
So for me personally, just with Fields, this kid's got a rocket arm. He can change a game with his legs.
yeah.
And to me, it just seems like he offers more of a ceiling than Kenny does. Does that make more sense?
But he's been in the league longer than Kenny, and he doesn't.
Yeah.
He hasn't.
And he hasn't progressed.
If
Yeah,
we're going to
no,
hold the same standard to Fields, let's say to Kenny, why aren't we holding it to Fields? Who's been in the
Yeah,
year,
True.
you're right.
longer? It's kind of where my head's at, right? We haven't seen Pickett. We've made this argument 2 years in a row, and we're going to make it again. But we haven't seen Pickett in a true pro style offense that kind of meets who he is for real. This is
Not a bad
I would
point.
rather give Pickett a chance to show what he's got in an offense that theoretically is much more aligned and much more professional. Give him a chance than to bring Fields in, who's been in different offenses, who hasn't done it for more years. I mean, I get what you're saying. Fields is more exciting. He certainly feels like he should do more, but he certainly has never done that more. So I'd rather see what Pickett can do and go.
Well, my biggest problem with the Fields thing is just the amount of draft capital you have to give up to get him. I'm not for that.
I don't think you have to give up a lot. I bet you if they take
Really?
I think you get him for a third.
Yeah, they're debating between a
What?
second and a third is what I've heard. Yeah, between a
Wait,
second and a third.
that's it?
Yeah, I don't think.
I
You
mean,
give
he
up
hasn't
a
done
lot.
anything in the league, Dave, and everyone
There
knows
are
they
other
want to trade him
quarterbacks
because
out
they
there
want
for
Caleb
free
Williams.
Guys, if all I got to give us a third for him, I'm driving to Chicago and picking him up.
Yeah,
I mean,
I just think
that Minshew doesn't, Brissett doesn't, that all these other free agent quarterbacks that you don't have to give up anything for give you. So, sign Brissett, sign Minshew, sign one of those guys if you're going to Tannehill. If is Fields a third round draft pick better than Minshew or any of those other guys?
well, he's younger and he's probably not. Probably not.
I mean, you can talk yourself into it because of the potential, but 3 years of potential is alarming. So
Yeah.
I mean, I'm looking at his 2023 stats now. He had 2,500 yards basically passing, 16 touchdowns, 9 interceptions.
Fumbled the ball a lot.
Yeah. I mean, he was hurt too, right? He didn't play in a lot of games too.
I think he played most of the season, no?
No, I thought he was hurt. I could have sworn he was hurt.
not a
Oh,
couple-
he did miss some games. He did. You're right.
Yeah.
'Cause they
So
had
I
that
mean,
guy, Tyson
so I'll
Bagent
put
or
it this
whatever
way:
for-
he was hurt and threw 16 touchdowns to 9 interceptions. How many touchdowns did Kenny throw a season? 5.
We go in circles with this thing, right? Because the Matt Canada offense. I mean, I don't know.
I don't know. I'm just saying, like, if we're comparing here, I mean, production, just strictly production. I mean, the guy that was hurt and didn't play half the season or whatever and had 16 touchdowns, and Kenny's 5. So one's doing something a little bit more. I'll put it that way.
Yeah,
I thought we'd have to give up, you'd have to give up like first round picks and stuff like that for him.
No.
You're telling me that we could have him for a second or third round pick?
Second or third round pick is what they're saying.
Oh, guys, that's for me. It's not bad.
Plus, I think
it's not bad. A third for sure. I'd
his
start off
5th-year
like
option's coming up
fourth.
too, so
Yeah,
you're gonna be paying a shit ton of money for him next season.
The problem
okay,
is
that's
if he
a
has a
good
really
point.
good year, then you have that issue, and if he doesn't,
Yeah.
you wasted a 3rd round draft pick. So or second
Yeah.
round pick. So
That's
you
true.
are, but that's a real issue. That's a really good point. Is like, it's almost like a 1-year rental unless you're willing to break the bank for him. And is he a 1-year rental kind of guy? He's not like Tom Brady 1-year rental. So what do you do with that?
Well, and here's the thing too, and this is just best case scenario. Say the Bears would do like a Chase Claypool mistake again, right? And say they give him to us for 3rd. We have 2 4th round picks.
Mm-hmm.
So you can sacrifice the 3rd, but at least you have the 2 picks back to back in the 4th round.
Mm-hmm.
So it doesn't hurt you as bad. Me personally, if I'm negotiating, I try to give him one of the Fortis first and see if they take the 4th round pick for him, which I doubt it. Yeah, right. But now I'm negotiating, you gotta negotiate.
Yeah, you'd be back to the 3rd again.
Like, look, if you're gonna give me the 32nd overall pick for Chase Claypool,
true.
Yeah, I'm gonna see how dumb you really are.
They probably hang up the phone when they see the Steelers number calling. They're like, no, we're not
You're
taking
probably
this.
right.
No.
You're probably right. But
I mean, I think you're right. I think just with the lack of any chance of a real star to be acquired, I think you run the course with Kenny Pickett, see what you got in him, and then unfortunately, 2024 is going to be another season of waiting for a good quarterback. My biggest fear is, again, Kenny Pickett's just good enough where, again, we're having this debate. Oh, do we keep him? Do we not keep him? Do we go one more season? They go 9-7 and maybe make the playoffs, and he's had an average year, and it's like, well, one more year under Arthur Smith.
I don't think that's going to happen. I think benching him was a big deal. I really do. Benching him into the playoffs, that's a big deal. Yeah. So I think you heard it already at the end of the season. They're done. They're done with not doing well in the postseason and not succeeding. I think if you hear them say it a little bit, amplify that behind closed doors, because they're done. And I think Tomlin knows he's on the hook. I think Rooney thinks he's on the hook a little bit, fan wise. I think they know that they've got to win now. And it doesn't mean that they pull some crazy stunt to get a quarterback in, but I think they are not going to give a long leash to Kenny. I think they are going to have a quarterback on that team, whether it's Rudolph, whether it's a Minshew, whether it's a Fields. There's going to be a viable alternative to Pickett that's not going to be Trubisky on this team. It may not be one that we are, jumping up and down about, but it will be a viable alternative.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sitting here and I'm looking I'm comparing Kenny's to Fields, and I mean, like, it's a higher production. It's about the same amount of games played, but at the same time, the production, it's almost you're just apples to oranges here. Like it's not that big of a difference. His quarterback rating is not that much better than Kenny's. Just the touchdowns is more, but the interceptions is more too.
Yeah.
So
he would drive Tomlin batshit crazy because he also, I don't know if you see fumbles. I think he led the league in fumbles this year too.
Yeah.
So
I don't know. I'd probably, if anything, it's been back to what I've been saying, Dave, in the first place. Just draft one. Please draft one. That's what I really want. But
I don't want him to draft a 3rd round guy who, lights it up in the preseason, and we're all like, oh, this is the guy. And then we got to wait 2 more seasons to find out, well, that wasn't the guy. Do it right. Go get somebody in 25.
I don't think they can get to one of those top 3.
No, I don't. They could, but they won't want to. They're not going to.
They have to give up too much to do it.
Yeah, they're going to have to give up 2 or 3
first round picks. If one would fall to the teens, then they'd have a shot to trade up.
None of the top 3 are falling that far.
I don't think so either. But I mean, you never know.
This is the problem with the Steelers. They've always been just good enough to be out of arm's reach of one of those quarterbacks. Remember how bad they had to be to get Ben, and they got lucky to get Ben because he's dropped further than he should have.
Yeah, they went
quarterback draft.
They went 6-10 in 03, and that was why they were able to get Ben in 04. That was why we were arguing just lose, just go 7-10 and go get one of them guys. But That we knew
Yeah,
better.
I
That
mean,
wasn't going to happen.
You
But
could make an argument that the number one pick might be for sale because it seems like Caleb Williams doesn't want to go to Chicago. He's kind of made that
yeah,
a couple times. So
really made it obvious. He's
then again,
channeling his Eli Manning, man.
Yeah, there's not a. Yeah, I wonder, how he's going to do. So
Right.
yeah, there's some red flags there. He did some hero ball stuff this year, and the USC didn't play very well down the stretch. So
Yeah.
there is a little bit of, but
he didn't play very well down the stretch.
yeah,
Right.
Not first round draft pick kind of, not like top pick. Well,
yeah.
Then he's in the stands crying to his mom, like laying on her crying.
I
Like,
cared less about that, but I mean, it's the whole
Ugh.
picture, right? It's that
Yeah,
whole
it's-
picture.
yeah.
He
I
did
don't know,
perform
man.
well
That-
on the field, and
I don't know
that's
how to. I don't know, dude. I don't know how to feel about that. Like, I was just like,
Then there's
The
the argument
hell?
that USC wasn't really that good a football team, and he was trying to carry them. So who knows? I mean,
I don't know. I've seen some of the throws he's made.
yeah, I was gonna say I'd take a shot.
It's
on
impressive.
Him, though.
Yeah, I
He
mean,
can run.
let's not.
He can
I don't
throw.
want to downplay the guy too much. And you guys are right. It's a good point. But man, some of the throws I've seen him make too. Whew.
And that
Yeah,
kid out of
yeah.
LSU, Jaden Daniels, is supposed to be every bit the
Yeah,
athlete that
Yeah, he's
any
he's
quarterback in the league is.
right. Another
You know,
one,
and-
legit. Hey, look, if they would fall far, I mean, into the teens, but
It won't happen.
I think the Steelers are committed to Kenny. 2024,
Yeah, for
they're
sure.
going to they want to make sure beyond a shadow of a doubt
Yeah.
he is or isn't the guy
yeah.
and move on.
But I do
And you
think
could-
they'll be willing to pull the plug early. Because
yeah,
I
if he
think
struggles.
yeah, I don't think they have the palate for another first, 3/4 of a season like they had this year.
Yep,
Oh,
I
it's gonna be a short
completely
leash
agree.
for sure. 100%. That makes whoever's the backup all that more important. They need a good backup. And Mason's probably back, right? Is anybody really going to spend money on Mason?
I
You
think
think so?
someone will. I know who I could see doing
Yep.
it. Well, had Belichick been in New England, I could see a guy like him going after a guy like Mason Rudolph.
There are teams that need bridge quarterbacks. There are teams that need solid backups.
Yeah.
For a
I guess
guy
you're
that
right.
came in and looked the way
Yeah.
he looked, he took that Matt Canada offense and put up 30-something points twice with it, 17 points in the pouring rain / snow, and then
Yeah.
put up 17 against that Buffalo defense. I mean, yeah, someone's going to offer him money. I mean, just think about how teams are nowadays. They offer big money, man, like for
Yeah,
quarterbacks.
fascinating to
And
see what he makes.
he'll come
Yep.
relatively cheap, so he'll be an affordable guy too, because he's not, he's not going to be a huge price tag. So I think that he will be in demand. Now, will he want to leave? I don't know.
Yeah.
But I do think that there'll be interest.
Yeah, I think what's gonna suck is I think it's gonna be, how do I put this? It's gonna be not a crazy amount of money, but too much more than what the Steelers are willing to give him.
Mm.
Yeah,
That's my worry.
Yeah,
That's my worry.
If he wants a
worry.
chance to start,
I'm just paranoid that's what's gonna happen. It's gonna be one of those things where you're like, oh man, if they would have just, cut Mitch, they could have gave that money to him or something like that.
Mason. No, they don't have Mason under contract yet. Never mind.
yeah. If he wants a place to start, the Steelers are as good a spot as any place because
Right.
he already beat Kenny Pickett out once. And
Right.
He could do it again.
That-
And he's got the
that's
confidence of his
yeah.
teammates. He's got teammates who seem to really like him.
Yeah.
They like
all the
him.
teammates like him.
They
Yeah,
do.
that's a good point too.
So
We'll see. Be an interesting offseason for sure.
when DJ openly says he hopes he's the starting QB next year. Wow, that's an endorsement. I mean,
yeah, did you see that interview with Alex Highsmith after one of those games? He was like
Yeah.
tickled
Yeah.
pink
They love
with
Mason
Mason
Rudolph.
Rudolph.
they do.
Yeah.
They do like him.
Yeah.
it makes me wonder, like, what is it about Kenny that they're not like that with him? Does that make sense? Like, I thought he was like
Yeah.
this great leader in the locker room. Like, I thought, wow, they really, follow him. And it just seemed like no. It seemed like
It's just performance,
more-
I think. I think they got tired of
I
bad
think you're right.
performance.
I think
it's
you're
part
right.
that. I do. I mean, this is me sort of maybe out of my own limb here, but there are times when he just seems like he's sour.
Yeah.
I think it. And that could just be completely me being way off the reservation on body language and stuff. But there are times when you see him on the sidelines where you see him sitting alone,
Yeah.
which is not normal from my vantage point for a backup for a quarterback to be sitting by himself mid game. That's not what you normally see. And I feel like there's a dynamic there where he's struggling with the lack of success, maybe, or whatever it is. I don't know. It just feels like that. And again, I don't have any reason to, no insider information kind of stuff, but his body language doesn't seem like great. And when you
Come on now, Ron, give us the goods. You know something.
I don't got
Come
the
on.
goods. All I know is that when scouts talk about like looking at quarterbacks and when no one else is looking at the quarterbacks at the combine and stuff, like when they throw a bad pass, what are they doing after that? Are they like head down, walking to the sideline? Are they pumping up their receivers? What are they doing? I'm not seeing a lot of the things that the scouts say they look for in last year's quarterback. So, I wonder about that.
To piggyback on your point, also like he kind of did it out loud too. And they said, "Hey, while you've been on the sidelines, are you learning anything? Is there anything you think that can make you better?" And he went, "Nope," and just turned and looked.
Yeah.
I mean, it was like, damn, like you couldn't go, yeah, I'm always learning. I'm always. You could politically, be correct, be politically correct, and answer that way better than just going, "Nope."
I think my guess is he probably feels like I was giving this crap offense. I was hurt. As soon as everything started turning around, they gave it to Mason, and look what he did. I could have done that too. My guess is all that is running through. Again, it's not like I'm on the phone with Kenny Pickett.
Right.
I feel like that is what's I'm seeing body language that a scout wouldn't like.
It was tension for sure.
Because
you could tell that press conference he was angry.
Yeah,
100% he was angry.
He felt he could play. He felt he could play.
Yeah.
And then they wouldn't let him play. And I think that pissed him off.
Especially when their success had afterwards.
Yes.
Right.
That was like his success that was taken away from him.
Yep. And he's he's a hard worker. That dude busts his ass. Yeah. I mean, I see videos all the time of him just constantly working on his crap. And it's just like, dude, to bust your ass that hard and then like you're not getting the go to play. Whew.
It's not like he didn't have a chance. I mean,
I think there's a lot of language. I think there's a lot of language you're hearing Tomlin use right now, but he's their number one quarterback on the depth. I think there's a lot. It feels like there's a lot of massaging that coaches do.
Absolutely.
Players that they're trying to keep straight.
Yeah.
Right. And it feels like Tomlin is doing a little bit of that with him.
Yeah. Didn't Tomlin snap on someone and they asked him, why is Mason not number one on the depth chart? And he said something like, would it make you happier if I did that?
Would it make you feel better if he was?
Make you feel better. Yeah. Yeah. So it's like, damn. So definitely there's something there. There's
a lot of tension going on.
Going on in that whole situation.
Yeah.
And I think Ron's right. Tomlin tried to like kind of, get through that with, hey, you're still number one on the depth charts. Can you imagine like his pitch to Kenny? There's always next season, Kenny. It's going to be all right. We're just going to let Mason see if he can do 30 more points again. And, I couldn't even imagine, man.
Yeah.
I told you at the time, he must have been so conflicted because he loves Kenny Pickett, but he loves to win even more. And he knew Mason was the best guy at that point in time to help the team win.
Lot too, man. Tomlin does not do change.
Yep.
Well,
no.
Or at least he doesn't have a passion for change, certainly.
Yep.
To do that, especially if he was healthy, that says a lot to me.
I think we could say Tomlin chose the streak over Kenny Pickett.
Well, I think he chose winning. He wants that guy wants to win. He wants to win.
Doesn't that say a lot when you're choosing someone? If you're Kenny Pickett and you're choosing to win over you, that's like you couldn't be a harder slap in the face than that. So
no.
Yeah. All right, guys, this was a lot of fun. Thanks a lot for doing this. You got anything else before we get out of here? Any last Pickett comments or anything else before we hit the road?
You can go ahead, Ron.
I don't know. Nothing new. In terms of insight or anything like that. It's gonna be off season's gonna be another roller coaster ride for the team, which is
this is gonna be an exciting off season.
Yeah,
see how they go. You got anything to plug before you get out, Ron?
I got a couple interviews with current guys the Steelers signed. Running back Aaron Shamklin from Harvard, and then Jack Coletto is a fullback and quarterback and return guy and linebacker. He does like everything. So
I saw he's on their depth chart as fullback. I saw that.
Yeah, he won whatever the award is for the most versatile player in college in 2022. So he's going to be kind of a fun guy to see on the roster and see what they have him do. So in any case, got a couple of those interviews coming up. So
that's cool because Arthur Smith uses fullbacks.
Right.
Like he likes using
about
fullbacks.
That, I interviewed him the day after Smith was hired. And he's like, "Yeah, I'm happy about that. It's like, hey, run guy. I'm cool with that."
All right. You can follow me on Twitter at SteelersSank16. email the show at daver@sealsanctuary.com. Subscribe to the podcast, guys. That really helps out the show a lot. Dave, you want to give me your stuff and let's get out of here?
Yeah, you can find me on X at DMC3SSP. I'm on TikTok at Steelers Sanctuary Podcast or at SteelSancPod. Don't forget, guys, I got the sports books on signupexpert.com/nothingness.
All right. Thanks for listening to the Steelers Sanctuary Podcast.